It's 3 in the morning. You're awake. Not because you want to be, but because your brain won't shut off. You're lying there, thinking about money. Not even big, specific money problems. Just this general sense of dread. This feeling that something isn't right financially, but you're not quite sure what it is. Your paycheck is decent. Your job is stable. You don't have crazy debt. On paper, you're fine. But something feels wrong, and you can't sleep because of it. So you open your phone, you scroll through your accounts, you look at your savings. It's not enough. You know it's not enough. But not enough for what, exactly? That's the thing that's driving you crazy. You don't even know. You just know it's not enough. And then you scroll through social media, and you see people your age who seem to have it figured out. They're buying houses, they're traveling, they're looking happy in their photos, and you're lying in bed at 3 in the morning, stressed about money, feeling like you're failing somehow. And I spend way too much time thinking about this, about the anxiety that people don't talk about, the financial stress that isn't about specific problems, but about this generalized feeling that everything is precarious, about the silent struggle that almost everyone is having, but nobody admits to having, because, we're supposed to have it together by now. Because here's the thing that nobody talks about. Financial anxiety isn't actually about not having enough money. It's about something much deeper. And once you understand what it actually is, you can start dealing with it. Let me describe something that I think a lot of people are experiencing, but nobody really talks about. It's not anxiety about a specific problem. It's not, I can't pay my rent, or I have too much debt. It's something vaguer. It's more like a constant low-level stress that you can't quite put your finger on. It's the feeling that you're one emergency away from falling apart. It's the sense that you're not quite where you should be financially, but you're not sure where you should be. It's the fear that you're making financial mistakes and you don't even realize it. It's the worry that everyone else has it figured out and you don't. And the weird thing about this anxiety is that it doesn't correlate to actual financial reality. I've known people making 6 figures who feel this anxiety intensely, and I've known people making much less who feel more secure. So it's not actually about how much money you have. It's something else. Part of it is comparison. You see other people and you think they're doing better than you. You see their vacations, their houses, their accomplishments, and you think you're falling behind. But you're comparing your insides to their outsides. You're comparing your stress and your doubts to their highlight reel. And part of it is uncertainty. The financial world is complicated. You don't know if you're making the right decisions. You don't know if you're saving enough, investing right, protecting yourself properly. You don't know the rules, so you assume you're breaking them. And part of it is that nobody talks about this stuff. Money is still taboo, so you have no idea if what you're feeling is normal or if you're uniquely broken. You're suffering in silence, thinking everyone else has it figured out. But the truth is, almost everyone is experiencing some version of this anxiety. It's just invisible. Here's something that I think is at the root of financial anxiety. Nobody ever gave you permission to not know. You're supposed to have a financial plan. You're supposed to know how much to save. You're supposed to know about investments and retirement and insurance. You're supposed to have it figured out. But you don't, and most people don't. And instead of saying, I don't know, let me learn, you just feel anxious about it. You feel like you should know, and the fact that you don't know makes you feel stupid. And so you don't ask for help. You don't educate yourself. You just feel bad about not knowing, and you avoid thinking about it, which makes the anxiety worse. But here's the thing. Nobody actually gives you education about money, not in school, not in a way that feels relevant or practical. You're supposed to just figure it out, and when you don't, that's on you. So the first thing is to give yourself permission to not know. It's okay that you don't have a financial plan. It's okay that you don't understand investments. It's okay that you're confused about whether you're doing the right thing. You were never taught. That's not a personal failure. And the second thing is to actually start learning. because the anxiety doesn't go away until you understand what's actually going on with your money. You can't fix something you don't understand, and you can't stop being anxious about it until you have some clarity. So pick one thing, just one. Maybe it's understanding your burn rate. Maybe it's learning about retirement. Maybe it's creating a budget. Pick one thing and actually learn about it. Not perfectly, just enough to understand what's going on. And you'll notice that the anxiety around that specific thing starts to fade because you have information, you have some agency, you're not just wondering anymore. Okay, so let's talk about the role of social media in all of this, because I think it's making the anxiety worse. Everyone is posting their highlights, the vacation, the new house, the promotion, the beautiful life. And you're scrolling through your phone, seeing everyone's best moments and thinking that's their actual life. You think they're always that happy, always that successful, always that together. But they're not. They're just posting the good moments. They're not posting the anxiety. They're not posting the month they had to cut back on everything because they overspent. They're not posting the fights with their partners about money. They're not posting the 3 in the morning panic about retirement. But you see their posts and you compare your actual life with all its struggles and doubts and messiness to their curated life. And of course you feel like you're failing. You're comparing reality to a performance. And this is especially true with money stuff. People post when they buy a house. They don't post the stress of the mortgage. They post the vacation. They don't post the credit card debt they're carrying to afford it. They post the promotion. They don't post the imposter syndrome or the fear that they're not actually qualified. So the financial anxiety gets worse because you see everyone else's wins and none of their struggles, and you think that's normal. You think everyone else is fine and you're the only one struggling. But they're struggling too. They just don't post about it. So the first step is to remember that what you're seeing on social media is not reality. It's a highlight. And the second step is to limit your exposure to it if it's making you anxious, because comparison is a happiness killer, and it's definitely an anxiety maker. A lot of financial anxiety comes from fear of the unknown. You don't know what's going to happen in the future. You don't know if you'll get sick. You don't know if you'll lose your job. You don't know if the market will crash. You don't know if you're saving enough. And that uncertainty is anxiety producing. Your brain hates not knowing. It would rather know something bad than not know at all, so it imagines the worst. It creates worst-case scenarios, and you lie awake at night thinking about them. And you can't control the future. You can't prevent all the bad things from happening. So the anxiety persists because the source of the anxiety, uncertainty, can't really be eliminated. But here's the thing. You can reduce uncertainty in some areas. You can create systems that make you feel more secure. You can build an emergency fund so that unexpected expenses don't destroy you. You can get insurance so that medical problems don't bankrupt you. You can educate yourself about your options so you understand what you're dealing with. None of this eliminates all uncertainty, but it reduces it. And reducing uncertainty, even a little bit, reduces anxiety. So the anxiety about the unknown isn't something that just has to be endured. It's something you can actually address by taking action, by building security, by preparing for the bad stuff that might happen. And the weird part is that once you've prepared, once you have a plan for the bad stuff, you're less anxious about it. Not because the bad stuff won't happen, but because you know what you'll do if it does. I think a lot of financial anxiety comes from the gap between what you think you should be doing and what you're actually doing. You should be saving 30% of your income, but you're saving 5%. You should have 6 months of expenses in an emergency fund, but you have 2 months. You should be investing aggressively, but you're too afraid. You should have your retirement figured out, but you don't. And every time you think about the gap between the should and the reality, you feel anxious. You feel like you're failing. You feel like you're not doing enough. But here's the thing. The should is often not based on your actual situation. It's based on someone else's situation, or a financial guru's recommendations, or your parents' values, or society's expectations. And your reality is based on your actual life, your actual income, your actual expenses, your actual risk tolerance, your actual goals. So instead of stressing about the gap, what if you just looked at your reality and asked, given my actual situation, what's the best I can do right now? What's the one thing I can improve? What's realistic for me? Because you can't build a life based on shoulds. You can only build it based on reality. And the sooner you accept your reality, instead of feeling anxious about it not matching some theoretical ideal, the sooner you can actually make progress. You might be saving 5% instead of 30. That's okay. 5% is better than 0%. Keep doing that. Build on it. But don't feel anxious about not being at 30%. You'll get there if you keep going. But comparing yourself to the ideal is just creating unnecessary stress. I think one of the reasons financial anxiety is so intense is because it's lonely. You can't talk about it. Money is taboo, so you suffer in silence. You can't tell your coworkers that you're stressed about money. You can't tell your friends that you're worried about retirement. You can't even tell your partner sometimes because you don't want to burden them or make them think you're not capable. So you carry it alone. And carrying it alone makes it worse. It makes you feel isolated. It makes you think that nobody else is dealing with this. It makes you feel broken. But almost everyone is stressed about money. Almost everyone lies awake at night thinking about it. Almost everyone feels like they're not doing enough. So one of the biggest anxiety relievers is just talking about it. Finding someone you trust and actually telling them what you're worried about. And almost always, they'll say, yeah, me too. I thought I was the only one. And that normalization, that realization that you're not alone, that what you're feeling is normal, it dramatically reduces the anxiety. So if you're carrying this alone, I want to give you permission to reach out. Find a trusted friend or family member, or even a therapist, and just talk about it. You don't have to figure it all out. You just have to talk about it. Okay, so what's the actual first step to dealing with financial anxiety? What can you do right now? I think it's this. Acknowledge what's actually true about your financial situation. Not what should be true, not what you wish was true, what's actually true. How much money do you make? How much do you spend? How much do you have saved? How much debt do you have? What are your actual expenses? For most people, just having clarity on these numbers dramatically reduces anxiety because you're not wondering anymore. You know. And knowing is always better than wondering, even if the numbers aren't great. Knowing is better than the anxiety of not knowing. So pull up your accounts, add up your numbers, look at the reality, and don't judge yourself for the reality. Just acknowledge it. And then ask yourself, what's one thing I can improve? Just one. Not everything, just one. Maybe it's tracking your spending so you actually know where money is going. Maybe it's creating a budget. Maybe it's starting to save a little bit. Maybe it's paying down a piece of debt. Pick one thing. Start there. And you'll notice that the anxiety starts to shift because you're not just floating in uncertainty anymore. You're actually doing something about it. I think it's also important to remember that financial anxiety, while real and valid, isn't the whole story of your life. You are more than your bank account. Your worth is not determined by your net worth. You can be financially anxious and still be a good person. You can be struggling and still be capable. You can be doing things imperfectly and still be doing them. And here's something that people who've gone through real financial hardship often say. The hardship taught them things that money couldn't have. It taught them resilience. It taught them what matters. It taught them that they could handle hard things. So the anxiety, while uncomfortable, isn't wasted. It's motivation. It's telling you that you care about this, that you want to do better, that you want security and peace of mind. And that's actually a good thing. That's what drives people to improve. That's what drives change. So instead of just trying to suppress the anxiety, what if you listened to it? What if you asked it, what are you trying to tell me? What do I actually need to address? And then you address that one thing, and the anxiety shifts. It doesn't go away completely, but it becomes something you're doing something about, instead of just something you're suffering from. So here's what I want you to understand about financial anxiety. It's real. It's valid. You're not broken for feeling it. Almost everyone feels it. But it's also addressable. The anxiety comes from a lot of different places: comparison, uncertainty, lack of knowledge, carrying it alone, the gap between where you are and where you think you should be. And each of these things can be addressed. You can limit comparison. You can reduce uncertainty through preparation. You can educate yourself. You can talk about it. You can adjust your expectations to match your reality. And you can take one small action, not to fix everything, but to move the needle, to reduce uncertainty a little, to gain some clarity, to know that you're doing something about it instead of just suffering from it. The anxiety won't go away overnight, but it will shift. And over time, as you take action, as you gain knowledge, as you build systems that make you feel secure, it will get better. You're not going to have your financial life completely figured out. Nobody does. But you can have clarity, and you can have a plan, and you can have the knowledge that you're doing the best you can with what you have. And that's enough. That's actually enough to live on. That's actually enough to sleep at night. So give yourself permission to not have it all figured out. Give yourself permission to learn. Give yourself permission to talk about it. And give yourself permission to take one small step. That's where it starts. That's where it all starts. Thank you for letting me into this with you. If this resonated, please share it with someone who's carrying financial anxiety in silence. And let me know in the comments, what's one thing you're going to do to address your financial anxiety? What's the one step you're going to take? Thanks for watching.